Well, good evening, everyone. Merry Christmas Eve. Welcome. My name is Reverend Justin Schroeder, one of the ministers at First Universalist Church, and I'm delighted to be here with Reverend Arif Mamdani. You can see he's in our sanctuary.
It is good to be with you this evening.
Yeah, it's not the same as all being together in the sanctuary, those of you who normally gather for this candlelight service, but it is good to be together this evening on this Christmas Eve. And as we begin our service tonight, we'll pause here for just a moment. I want to invite you, if you don't have a candle or a battery-powered candle or matches, if you want to, you're welcome to go grab a candle or a battery-powered candle or something, because we will have a chance later in this service to share the light with one another. So we'll wait just for a second if you want to go grab your candle. I have a candle here. I actually have a few extra, so I can have those in spirit if you don't have a candle with you. But we'll give you a second to grab those candles. So welcome back. Before we continue, Arif and I want to share a little video with you all about how to light your candle, particularly if you're with others. This is something that we cover every year in this service, and we just couldn't leave that out this year.
Hey friends, as we are getting ready for this service, there's something that we wanted you to know. If you have joined us in the sanctuary in the holidays in the past, you know that there is something that we always make sure to tell you before we light candles, which is that there is a safe way. That's right. To light a candle.
In a not safe way.
A very unsafe way. So step one, to light your candle safely, we thought we'd just,
walk
give
you
a
through
little
it.
demonstration. So go ahead and grab a candle, hit pause if you need to. Okay, you got your candle? Great. So here's what we're gonna do. First, put on your mask. Really important. Pandemic, put on your mask. Second, when you are lighting your candle, you tip the unlit candle toward the lit candle, and then tip your candle up. What you don't do is tip your lit candle anywhere, because then you get wax all over yourself or your neighbor, and it's really unpleasant. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Well, we had to include that because every year we include that warning, and still there is wax that ends up on people's clothes and on the pews, and it's just become part of this tradition. I loved how you all were saying hello to each other in the chat box. That's really wonderful. You're welcome to do that as we continue on with this service. Just let us know where you're joining us from, and wish holiday blessings to those who are in this virtual space with us. So this year, we're doing something a little bit different in this candlelight service. We're blending elements of the winter solstice ritual, some of the readings and some of the songs from that winter solstice ritual, with the elements that we normally use for this Christmas Eve service. So it'll be a dance between those two services and rituals. And really, whether you celebrate solstice or Hanukkah or Christmas or something else, this season, this time of year, these rituals and holidays in these darkest days of the year, they are about finding the gifts of the dark, those dark nights, and the gifts of the short days. It's about embracing and learning from the darkness. It is about recognizing that this is a season, even in that darkness, that holds great promise. There is the promise of hope that is lurking amidst the waiting, that is lurking amidst the not knowing of this time. There is the seed of possibility that is beginning to stir in the soil in our hearts. This season reminds us that hope will spring anew in the human heart. Hope will spring anew in the world, and that hope so often shows up in the tiniest of beings, in the most vulnerable of beings, little tiny babies, for example. We know that the light will return, that even now in the dark, cold, icy winter days and nights, there is new life just waiting right out of sight. So in this time of thresholds, in this in-between time, we acknowledge that there is brokenness in our world. There is oppression and aggression. There is hurt and harm. There is grief and loss and suffering. That is all real. more so this year than in many other years. That is real and true. We hold that reality tonight, and we open ourselves to the mystery, to the miracle, to the wonder of this season. May this time together be a time of awakening as we once again recount an ancient story, an ordinary and extraordinary story. And we let this story come alive once again in our hearts. If you missed my earlier announcement, you're invited to grab a candle or some other light-making device that we'll use later on in the service as we pass the light with one another. And once again, we welcome you to this magical hour, this time when we faithfully gather to feel the power of love and hope being born again into this world. Welcome once again.
Please join us in saying the words to light our chalice.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our first reading this evening is The Moment of Magic by Victoria Safford. Now is the moment of magic, when the whole round earth turns again toward the sun. And here's a blessing. The days will be longer and brighter now, even before the winter settles in to chill us. Now is the moment of magic, when people beaten down and broken with nothing left but misery and candles and their own clear voices kindle tiny lights and whisper secret music. And here's a blessing. The dark universe is suddenly illuminated by the lights of the menorah, suddenly ablaze with the lights of the Kinara, and the whole world is glad and loud with winter singing. Now is the moment of magic, when an eastern star beckons the ignorant toward an unknown goal. And here's a blessing. They find nothing in the end but an ordinary baby, born at midnight, born in poverty, and the baby's cry, like bells ringing, makes people wonder as they wander through their lives what human love might really look like, sound like, feel like. Now is the moment of magic. And here's a blessing. We already possess all the gifts we need. We've already received our presents, ears to hear music, eyes to behold lights, hands to build true peace on earth, and to hold each other tight in love. Let us return to the moment of magic, to the blessings that are around us. Let us return to love as we sing with Franco and Amy, Return Again.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again.
The moment of magic is this moment right now. This moment as we draw breath into our lungs. This moment as we sing and chant. This moment as hope, however small it might be, as hope in us, around us, is born and reborn again. The moment of magic is a simple, ordinary story. The ancient story of Mary and Joseph, a human couple trying to get by, trying to understand what is happening to them and why, and willing to trust the not knowing and the blessings that emerge around them. So let us join Mary and Joseph in this ancient story as we hear these words from the Gospel of Luke chapter 2. While Mary and Joseph were in Bethlehem, the time came for the baby to be born. And Mary gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people."
In a cynical, skeptical world, who even believes in angels anyway? And yet, this season invites us to leave room now and always for the possibility of angels, for the singing of angels. As Reverend Howard Thurman writes in his piece, The Singing of Angels, there must be always remaining in every person's life some place for the singing of angels. Some place for that which in itself is breathlessly beautiful and by an inherent prerogative throwing all the rest of life into a new and creative relatedness. Something that gathers up in itself all the freshest of experience from drab and commonplace areas of living and glows in one bright light of penetrating beauty and meaning, then passes. The commonplace is shot through with new glory. Old burdens become lighter, deep and ancient wounds lose much of their old hurting. A crown is placed over our heads that for the rest of our lives we are trying to grow tall enough to wear. Despite all the crassness of life, despite all the hardness of life, despite all of the harsh discords of life, life is saved by the singing of angels.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. See him in a manger laid, whom the choirs of angels praise. Mary, Joseph, lend your aid, while our hearts in love we raise. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
So we continue with Luke's Gospel. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. Let's ponder this story. Let us ponder what is in our own hearts this evening as we hold this ancient story. Born in a stable and laid in a manger, the light of the world arrived. Carried by parents both weary and wary, wondering if they were up to the task, the child arrived. There, in a world of fear and uncertainty, a world where selfishness and greed ruled just as it so often does today, a spark of the divine took shape, heralded by angels and wise ones, greeted by the warm breath of animals and the adoring gaze of parents. There he was born. In this world of uncertainty,
where so much does not make sense, in this world where we are left wondering what is happening too often to our fellow human beings and our planet, in this world, the question remains, what might happen? What might happen if we acted as if the holy was right here among us? What might happen if we cared for ourselves and each other, recognizing the light inside as just as vulnerable as a newborn infant? Spirit of life and love, help us to see with old eyes. Help us to find the fragile, glowing light of the world that lives within each one of us. Help us to add our hands to its shelter. Holy One, in this world that does not make sense, help us to hear the old story, lending our hearts and our lives to the only truth that has ever made sense. That to truly live is to give ourselves to the world, tender and vulnerable and wholehearted, fierce and kind. Help us to give ourselves to this world, caring for the light within, among, and beyond us with the watchful eyes of a parent over a newborn babe. May it be so. Amen. And let's settle into this time of reflection and listen to Franco's music.
Our next reading comes from the Gospel of Matthew. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, Magi followed the star in the sky and came to see the baby. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. In the story, the Magi bow down because they recognize that this tiny body, this tiny baby, is the home of God. But the divine doesn't just live in that body, that baby in this ancient story from so long ago. Each of our bodies is the home of the divine, is the home of God, the home of that animating source of life. Call it spirit, call it God, call it source. Each of our bodies is home to that. Each of us carry the imprint of the divine in us. Each of us has light to share. You have to know your body as the home of God, writes the Reverend Rebecca Parker. You have to know your body as the home of God. And this is the purpose of Christmas. The rare blossoming in the wilderness is the unfolding of your pleasure as the fingers peel an orange and sweetness buds in the mouth. The bright star in the night sky is the sudden clarity of your instinct for joy. The birth cry in the night is your child falling into the dark and your arms holding her. The terror of Herod's murderous intent is your rage that would prefer death to change. The singing angel is your voice at church, or your voice in this Zoom church, not sure of the tune, but certain for a moment that there is glory. The animals breathing their warm breath in the fragile stable are your emotions, kneeling into the body of earth at ease in the presence of God. Mary is you, God in your body. Joseph is you, sheltering God in the world. This is the key to the mystery. The Word became flesh. We are the dwelling place. Just as the Magi shared gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, we share the gifts that we are able to share as well. And tonight, our offering will support the Minister's Emergency Fund. This is an emergency fund that we have been using a lot these days. We have been helping people with rent and housing. We've been helping people with medical bills. We've been helping people with food and gas and anything you can imagine. We have been able to help folks because this fund has been supported by members of this congregation. We are grateful for that support. And your generosity tonight ensures that we are able to continue helping one another in these challenging times. It is a very concrete, very tangible thing that we can do to offer a church member or a church family or someone connected to someone in the church this kind of concrete support for that difficult moment they find themselves in. So we invite you to give generously tonight as you are able, and if a blessing is all you are able to offer, that is enough. That is a gift indeed. There are a variety of ways that you can give. I think you just saw those on your screen. You can text to give, use Square Cash, give online, or you can send a check to the church. As we give and receive our offering this evening, let us listen to our choir as they sing, "Lo, how a rose."
Thank you. Thank you so much, choir. Friends, in these darkest of days, the message of this season remains. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. Tonight, as we do in our Solstice Ritual, we will light candles of community, bringing our light to illuminate the path before us, winding toward hope and healing. We light these candles of community, and then we share the light with one another. We light a candle of compassion to remind us to listen and act with tenderness in the face of suffering and injustice.
We light a candle of affirmation to empower each other to follow our own unique path with confidence while embracing our differences.
We light a candle of forgiveness to allow us to move forward with love and humility.
We light a candle of respect to honor the worth and dignity of every person and living thing in the web we weave and are a part of.
We light a candle of sanctuary to embrace others in need, to offer safe harbor, and to eliminate barriers that prevent everyone from thriving. The candles of community are now lit. If you have a candle at home, you are invited to light it, to add your light to our collective light, to remind yourself of the slowly lengthening days, to remind yourself of the light in your own heart. As we share the light, let us sing Silent Night with Amy and Franco.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy so tender and mild. Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, oh opening graves. Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace.
Oh, Amy and Franco, it's almost like we're together singing, and we are in this Zoom space. We are together, and that song and the singing was bringing joy into my heart. It has been good to be with you all tonight. Arif, it's been good to lead this service with you. And dear ones, in this time that has been unlike any time any of us have experienced before, these words from the Reverend Howard Thurman, may they serve as our blessing, as our benediction, as the reminder of this season and what is possible even when things feel impossible. This is from Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among others, to make music in the heart. May it be so, and amen. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We carry the flame.